Hi, this is Erie Street Stories, and I'm your host, James Lawrence. On this week's episode, we have a short story called TexT about an online predator. It's a very creepy story, and I hope you enjoy it. And you might just be surprised by the ending. So, let's get right to it. Here we go with TexT. Daryl Gillespie had grown used to the rhythm of his evenings, dark curtains drawn, laptop aglow, tabs open, his spider-like fingers dancing across keys with surprising precision. At 33, his body wasn't what it used to be, but the hunger, that hadn't dulled. He was clicking through a grainy video on a sketchy porn site when his phone buzzed. "Hey, is this Leah's number?" He frowned, blinking at the text. Wrong number. He almost dismissed it, but paused. The name wasn't familiar, but the area code was local. He hesitated, then replied, "No Leah here. Who's this?" "Oops. Sorry, wrong person. Holly." He leaned back in his creaking chair, something about the name, young-sounding, friendly, curious. He could practically hear her voice already. "No worries, Holly. I'm Trevor. Nice to meet you." A few minutes passed, then, laughing out loud, "Okay, nice to meet you too, Trevor. Thanks for being cool." And just like that, the door cracked open. They texted for over an hour that night. Daryl played his part perfectly. Empathetic, funny, gentle. He asked the questions he'd perfected over the years, the subtle kind that helped him paint a picture. She said she was 16. No boyfriend. Kind of lonely, not sure what she wanted in life. Daryl told her he was 17. Shy, recently dumped by his high school sweetheart because she said he was a nice guy. He left out the truth. His real age, the flabby gut, the stained undershirts, and the smell of old fast food in his one-bedroom apartment. He left out the 3 girls who never made it home. The trunk of his car was lined with plastic in case someone else made the mistake of trusting him. But Holly kept texting. By the 3rd night, he asked for a picture. "I don't know, I don't even know what you look like." He flipped open a drawer in his desk and pulled out a photograph of a young, handsome man, perhaps 18 years old. A clean-cut guy, tousled hair, and a smirk. He took a photo of the photo, sent it. "That's you?" Laughing out loud. "Yeah, why?" "Damn, okay. You're cute," laughing out loud. Daryl's heart thudded, and a heat rose in his chest that he hadn't felt in years, and then, finally, "Okay, your turn." She sent a selfie. It loaded slow, like it was dragging suspense behind it. When it finally appeared, he exhaled sharply, rosy cheeks, long red hair, big, unsure eyes, no makeup, a little timid, a little vulnerable. Perfect. Over the next few nights, he worked her insecurities like clay. She admitted she had never had a real boyfriend, said she didn't think she was pretty, said she sometimes thought she was broken. Daryl replied like a surgeon, "Broken? You're beautiful. Guys are intimidated by girls like you. You get me in a way no one else has. Wish I could hold you and talk all night." It wasn't long before he suggested meeting. "I don't know," she said over the phone. Her voice was sweet, not high-pitched, just soft, almost childlike. "What if it's weird in person?" "It won't be," he said gently. "We already clicked. You said so yourself." He told her about the park, about the baseball field tucked behind the woods, quiet, private. Said they could just sit and talk, no pressure. He was careful not to push too hard. He just let the idea sit there like bait. The next day she texted, "Okay, I'll come, but just for a few minutes." He packed methodically. Rope, duct tape, condoms, a switchblade. He'd done this before. The trunk was already lined with plastic sheeting. The thrill vibrated through him like a low hum. At the park, the lot was empty. The field was quiet, the metal bleachers ghostly in the dusk. He texted her. "Here, you close? Walking now, but can't stay long. Would be In huge trouble if my parents knew I was here. He smiled. Promise we'll only hang out a bit. I can even give you a ride home. Just got my license. He tucked the switchblade into his pocket and stepped into the shadows. She was sitting in the dugout when he arrived, a figure, slim, still, half lit by the amber glow of the street light behind the fence. Her face was mostly hidden under the brim of a hoodie. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Hi," she said, not looking at him. He stayed in the dark. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, just nervous. "Me too," he lied. They made small talk for a minute. She kept glancing around. "Maybe I should go," she said suddenly, shifting on the bench. "Wait," he said, stepping forward out of the shadows. She looked up. Her eyes widened. You're not 17. "Holly," he said softly, "I can explain." "What are you going to do to me?" she said, stepping back. "Just leave. I won't tell anyone." "I'm sorry," he said, hand tightening around the knife in his pocket. "I can't do that. This is your fault, you know. You called me." But then he noticed movement, shapes in the shadows. He turned, slowly at first, then in sharp jerks, as figures emerged one by one from the surrounding trees and fence line. 5 women, all young, all watching him with cold, unblinking eyes. "What is this?" he said, his voice cracked dry. "You don't remember Debbie, do you?" Holly's voice had changed. Gone was the tremble. In its place was steel. "What?" "She was the second girl. You left her in a drainage ditch, stabbed 6 times. Daryl stepped back. "You don't know what you're talking about." "You made a mistake," Holly said. "You thought I was weak. You thought I was alone. You thought I didn't matter." She stepped closer. Daryl reached for the blade. She was faster. The first stab went into his stomach. He gasped, eyes widening in shock. She stabbed him again and again, 6 in total. He dropped to his knees. She whispered into his ear, "How does that feel, Daryl Gillespie?" Another girl stepped forward, tall, dark-skinned, her eyes full of tears and fire. "Kelly was stabbed 4 times. She stabbed him in the shoulder, then again in the back. He fell onto his side, gasping, blood pooling under him. But the other girls closed in. They didn't speak. They just acted. By the time the police arrived the next morning, Daryl Gillespie was barely a man, just a tattered body and a patch of dirt. What was left of him was surrounded by footprints, streaks of blood, and the distant echo of a justice long denied. Inside his trunk, officers found rope, tape, condoms, a switchblade, plastic lining, and under it all, a diary of sorts, notes, names, dates, photos of the 3 missing women. One was Debbie, one was Kelly. The third had never been identified. Detective Stanton Reed wiped sweat from his forehead and leaned against his cruiser. He was built like a worn-out linebacker, broad, aging, and stiff in his knees. His partner, Carla Mendez, stood beside him, flipping through the contents of the evidence bag. "Serial predator," she said. "Probably more victims. We'll get DNA, cross-reference open cases." Reed nodded, chewing on a toothpick. "But one thing bugs me," Carla added. "What's that?" She cocked her head. "Who killed him?" Reed looked back toward the dugout. The blood was already soaking into the earth, the outline of the body marked in chalk. He shrugged and, with a heavy sigh, replied, "I'm not sure I care." Thanks for listening to another episode of Erie Street Stories. We appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend, spread the word. We hope to bring you a new Erie short story every week here on our show. Hopefully you'll tune in next week when we have a story called Driven, about a young woman who gets her license with a car that has a very spooky secret, perhaps sitting in the back seat. So I hope you'll tune in for Driven next week on Erie Street Stories.